Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Out of the Park Developments YouTube channel. My name is Alex Murray, also known as AZ Axel, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial about finances and the budgets you have control over in OOTP. It's a lot to cover in this video, so we better get started. If you got your games open, let's jump right into it. And we'll start this tutorial on the finances page, which can be found directly underneath of the front office page. If you click on that, you'll get right to this page right here. Now, there's a lot of information on this page, so we're going to try to dig through as much as we possibly can. There's going to be a little more details and a little more information. We might run into some more things on the accounting page on the in-game tutorial. So if you're going to be looking for that one, maybe go through the in-game tutorial to get a little more of a line-by-line approach. We're going to kind of more generalize some of the finances on this video while trying to go into some other topics that might be of more interest to some people. So the first thing that you're going to want to know about is your budgets, your player payrolls, which are going to be up here in the financial summary section. Knowing how much you have to spend and what you are currently spending on players is going to be important. That's going to be able to help you figure out what your money for free agents and money for extensions should be and where you're at sitting for the current season. So again, money for free agents is basically money you have available for this current season. That's going to be important if you're trying to acquire more players or if you are going to be doing a deal or a trade for a player that's going to add to your player payroll. Having money in here is going to be vital to make sure that those go through and you can actually afford them. Money for extensions is projected value of the next season. That's going to be all about making sure that you aren't paying your players too much and down the road you're going to go into debt. So you need to be aware of both of those and making sure that both of those are positive and in the green. Now, you can get as close as you want to zero on the money for free agents if you want to put more money into your budgets. For example, if you want to put more money into your scouting budget or your development budget or your draft budget or your international amateur free agency budget, you absolutely can. And we'll talk a little bit about those as well before we end this video. So you can run your budget as close as possible to using all of your budget, basically. So making sure your expenditures are hitting your budget amount, that's a good way to be able to perform every single season. Because at the end of the day, you don't really get to carry over much of the money. And we'll talk about why. So I'll explain about why in a couple of minutes here. Now, we do want to talk a little bit about tickets. Tickets are going to be one of the best ways you can gain income every single season. You should be earning quite a lot of money. Also projected as revenue due to your ticket sales. Now, there are other ways of getting revenue. You will also have a local media, national media, and merchandise revenue source as well. But tickets are going to be one of the best ways and really the only ways you have direct control over how much income you can possibly get in addition to what is projected for you in the regular season. So be aware of what your ticket prices are, how many season tickets are projected, how many season tickets are currently done, what the attendance is expected to be, and how much the revenue per game is expected to be. If those are all going to be in good numbers, you may be okay with even raising the number of your ticket price if you'd like to. But being aware of what that is going to be important to be able to take advantage of a vibrant fan base and making sure that you as a GM give yourself the best advantage possible year in and year out. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the owner for a quick second. I know we don't talk about this in the in-game tutorial, but your owner does have quite a large influence on your budget and your spending. All right. So there's a couple different things about your owner that are important for money, and that's going to be your fiscal personality of your owner. So there's different personalities that your owner can be. One of them is charitable, the other is penny pincher. And penny pinchers will not let you go over your budget, period. They're going to be much more controlling over your budget. They're going to want to be most likely than not, they're going to be more hands-on, and they're going to be all about making sure that you stay within what they want you to stay within. Charitable, and basically the other side of that whole entire conversation, is going to be more about making sure that the team's needs are met, and money is not exactly no object, but the owner, if they are charitable, is going to be much more liable to allow you to get away with a couple more $1 million spent on maybe, say, a first-year player draft signing bonus. Or they may be okay with you going over the $5 million international amateur free agency cap. All right? Now, they may be against you signing a player for $5 million more than they're worth, and that goes over the team budget, but they'll at least be more hospitable to acquiring prospects for your team. Penny pinchers will not be. So understanding how your owner is going to behave is going to be important for understanding what you can get away with, if you want to call it that, in OOTP, all right? Also, the priority is going to be important as well. If your owner's priority is profit, then you may need to look into, what you can do to keep a profit as a focus, but also be able to, just work through how you manage that as a whole for your organization and your team. So that way you're still being able to develop prospects and play good baseball while also winning, while also giving your owner the profits that he wants. Because if your owner demands profits versus, winning games and winning championships, that's their certain priorities can be different. You may need to be more optimalized towards making sure you have lots of money available, because the owner would prefer, if he's a profit manager, he may prefer more money for free agents and more money for extensions in the course of a regular season. That would make him more happier than having zero money left but having a winning ball club. So and winning is great. A winning record and going to playoffs almost always pleases an owner, and you can get away with that, all right? You can get away with not listening to your owner, completely ignoring his goals, and just winning the World Series, and he'd be happy with you, all right? Even if you don't hit his goals. But if you're not able to perform and win baseball games, and you're not hitting the owner's goals, and you're not understanding his priority, you will not last long in that organization, all right? So just a couple things to note about the owner situation at that point. Now, we talk about accounting in the in-game tutorial. We basically talk about how each of these lines represents some form of either income or expenses, and they all end up adding up to your bottom line at the end of your season, which is the total balance on the bottom. Now, let's quickly run over what these kind of do one more time, just in case you didn't go through the tutorial. So your previous balance does come back to reflect on your current season. Now, the owner usually will either accept that extra cash for themselves, or they will help either take care of some of that deficit. So if you were coming back from a season where you were down in money and you were in the red, the owner may pick that up from you and cover some of it or not all of it. If your owner is charitable, they may be more willing to pitch in and actually cover any deficits. If your owner is focused on profit, they may be less willing to do that. And they may be more willing to take your profits and pocket it at the end of the season. All right? So just be aware that even if you do have a really good season where you have, $30 million profit at the end of the year, that does not guarantee that next year you have $30 million additional dollars to work with, because the owner may take most of that. All right? So the owner's budget is going to be way more important than how much money you have at the end of the year. The budget needs to grow. It needs to always be in a good, positive position for your organization. That is the goal of your team, all right? And you can actually even see on this page what the projected budgets are for the next 2 seasons. So you'll want to be able to use that information to know if you need to make changes for the future, so that way you don't put yourself into a bad financial situation, all right? Now, revenue sharing is something that happens over the course of the regular season. This is money added or subtracted depending upon the league revenue sharing structure. Now, I believe MLB's is currently set up around the luxury tax. And basically, teams over the luxury tax pay money to the teams who are not. And that's very small amounts. It's sometimes a couple $100,000, upwards of maybe $1 to $2 million, is what I've understood that's basically going to be. So OOTP players should be expecting not a whole lot from this revenue sharing ability. You're going to get more money from the gate share gained and gate share lost than from the revenue sharing, all right? And again, cash from the owner is basically going to be how much money the owner is going to either add or subtract to the current season, and that gives you your starting balance. You'll have all your revenues, which is basically your tickets, the gate revenues, the gate shares lost and gate shares gained if you're home or away, away teams gain portions of the home team's gate share, and home teams lose a little bit of their gate share to the visitors. So it helps keep teams a little bit honest about a team that doesn't get a whole lot of fan base versus the team that does. It just gives them a chance to get a little extra money from teams that have vibrant fan bases compared to theirs. Playoff revenue is only if you hit the playoffs. That's money you get directly from those. Media revenue and merchandise revenue are all kind of preset. Those normally do not change unless the league changes how it's a back-end setting, unfortunately. Most of the time, this doesn't change unless you have League Evolution turned on, and there's a league change, league additions. There's certain ways this can change, but you do not have direct control over that, so don't worry about that, and those doesn't change that often, all right? And that ends up becoming your revenue subtotal, and that's the number you end up getting. We are projected to hit a certain amount this season, and that's a good amount right about there. Expenses are going to be all about where we're paying money to. Now, this can be players, staff, and then all of our budgets. Scouting, the draft budget, the player budget, the international amateur free agent budget, and then miscellaneous player expenses, which is basically mostly that's coming from posting fees, player buyouts, and then, of course, at the bottom down below that, there's also an additional cash from trades, which can actually be positive or negative depending upon how your trades go. So, of course, all of our expenses end up coming up to a subtotal. We want to make sure that our revenue subtotal is bigger than our expenses subtotal, which is just basic money and finances at that point. And then, of course, if we have any cash from trades, we want to make sure that our season profit loss is positive. Try to always make this positive. If this is negative, it's going to influence the next season and the year after that and the year after that, and you're going to be struggling to keep up with all your finances. All right? Now, one of the biggest areas in which you're going to be spending money is going to be your players. So the salaries tab is going to be the best way to be able to see the players you're paying money to. This will also let you know who's going to become a free agent at the end of the year by being able to see whose contracts run up at the end of the year, all right? You can sort these by year to see who is the most expensive every single year. You'll also be able to see, again, like I mentioned, who expires at the end of the year, who you might want to look at extending or getting another contract to, all right? Lastly, we did talk about the draft budget and the international amateur free agent budget. Those are going to be assignable here in the player development page. So if you want to change those, you can change them on the finances page. I recommend changing them on the player development page just because it's easier to see and it's easier to manage. Also, you will be given a recommended draft slot amount depending upon how many draft picks you have, where they are in the draft. The game will automatically tell you what they estimate you're going to spend on your first-year player draft players as a signing bonus, all right? So making sure that you're not going too far over or too far under is going to be important to make sure that you get the best option or best potential to be able to actually sign the players that you draft, because it's one thing to sign up to draft a player, it's another to actually be able to afford and draft them and sign them, all right? So make sure that you're not only able to draft them, but you are able to sign them, all right? And that should cover all of the finance systems and budgets in OOTP. I hope this video was helpful for all of you out there in being able to learn how those work and how to operate those and organize them for the best way possible in your team. We will continue to upload more tutorials and other videos just like this one. So please do subscribe to this channel, and I will see you all in the next one.